What is good? Little technical difficulty to get started here, but we're back. Draft is underway. We're presented to you by our sponsors, Fast Draft, Mock Draft Mondays, fastest, easiest fantasy app on the planet. Promo code down in the corner. We'll get into the details later on that bad boy. Big Co, how's it going, man?
Mock Draft Mondays, I love it. Thanks for putting this together. A couple of technical difficulties, but you ran right past them. Good to go.
All right, so we're live and rolling. We got a Superflex TE Premium mock going. Of course, we have rookies in it at this point. It usually takes a little bit to get rolling here. Obviously, we got Super Bowl Sunday that just concluded, and we had, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles be crowned in a dominating fashion, right? Me and Big Co talked on the phone early this morning, discussed it at the radio and post-game coverage of how much Jalen Hurts was getting. And by all means, give my man some love. He played well. That's what Jalen Hurts just did, is what Jalen Hurts is expected to do, right? That's what he should be doing. Sure. Game in, game out. But that defense, the coverage all day, all night, everything should be about what this defense just did to Patrick Mahomes and eviscerated that offensive line and Patrick Mahomes, who you've never seen, maybe outside of that early Super Bowl against Tommy, them be uncomfortable. And just, and I thought Tom made a good point multiple times of just you can tell how uncomfortable he is by his feet. They were just all over the place, never comfortable. There was always somebody in pursuit, always chasing him, got there with 4. And, for so long, the Chiefs have been in good position because they have all these coordinators who don't really go anywhere. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that's a huge reason. And Philly looks to take a step, at least defensively, in that direction. Spags has been in Kansas City forever and has been able to get this defense where he wants it, how he wants it. And now Fangio's an older guy, probably not getting another head coaching job in the league. And somehow the Eagles landed him because Miami is the most incompetent place in the world. And them boys didn't even want him there. Like, what are y'all doing? How dumb is that locker room? And then you go over to Philly and you just put him with these monsters. And now all of a sudden you get Fangio just potentially for, 4 or 5 year run here with Philadelphia, or maybe longer if he wants to, PA guy. Those things go unnoticed and untalked about a lot but we try to bring them up a good bit, but I think that's absolutely huge. Obviously they're going to lose Kellen Moore. That stinks. And they don't have Andy Reid as the continuity factor to be the guy who's calling plays. I know Sirianni can kind of do that, but they've obviously done a whole lot better with Kellen at the helm here since Steichen left. Right. So
I got Barkley at the same time.
Right. I think this is so huge for them in that defense to show up the way they did. They've kind of had some changing of the guards and some parts and pieces. You're about to lose BG, Brandon Graham, but there's all these new parts and pieces. I mean, you got Cooper DeJean, who's awesome, Quinyon Mitchell, just great rookies in there. And then you have, of course, all of the Georgia guys who are all starting to come into their own and just be dogs. And then you had, the linebacker, Bond, who was excellent all season long. Fangio made him into the piece that defense so badly missed over the last year or two. There was a definite weakness at some corner in some spots, and then for sure linebacker, they were just weak. And they shored that thing up, and Philly just had defensively put on a just spectacle last night.
Definitely. Eagles crumbled down the stretch last year, got it back together, and just had an amazing run this year. And dominant wasn't even the word. Dominant is like underselling that defense. Like you said, we haven't seen Patrick look like that since the last time he played Super Bowl against the Bucs and he lost. It's just, if you get that pressure on the quarterback, everything changes. And I heard Rich Eisen on the radio today talking, why don't the other teams try to do that? And it's like, it's not that easy. The Eagles have a great roster. And they've been, building it for years. Like you said, all those Georgia boys, and it didn't just happen overnight. That one of the Jalen Carter gets in some trouble before the draft, had no business dropping to the Eagles. Now the Eagles drafted him. Good, So just a player that dominant was like a top 3 locked in draft pick, got into a little bit of trouble. And then the Eagles get him at pick 9 or 10 that year.
Hmm.
which is, just like two or three, like if you're thinking about it like a rookie draft in fantasy football, that, he should have been up there in a Ashton Genty type tier, and he drops all the way down here to the end of the first round to a championship type team. Stuff
Hmm.
like that, that's been adding up, However, Roseman's done a great job building the team. Anyway, Eagles dominated, and you know, go Lions.
Yeah, so good, great for Philly. Even though I grew up in that area and dislike the franchise mostly because of the fans. My wife is a diehard Eagles fan though, so you know had to root for them, I suppose. And it's nice to see Barkley get one again. I'm a Lehigh Valley guy, so shout out to Jahan Dotson and
There you go.
Saquon Barkley. Both played against my high school growing up, so cool to see those guys get one. Barkley's
I love,
good,
I
good
love,
dude.
I love Jalen Hurts getting a ring. I love
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts getting a ring.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
a
mind
great,
Jalen Hurts getting a ring either.
great guy, great guy.
Yeah.
So
All right,
anyway,
let's
some
jump
picks
into
to
this
make.
draft here. We're rolling. So, a little preamble to get things kicked off. We got Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Patty Mahomes up there at 104, Hurts, Burrow at the 106. Then we got a run of wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb. And we got Bijan Robinson. Shout out to our guy Chev over there. What's good? We got Uh, Gibbs going at 111, St. Brown going at 112, Brock Bowers on the turn at 2-1, then Neighbors at 2-2, Puka Nakua at 2-3. That's been a combination I've been liking starting with in the back half of that draft, that Puka Bijan. Let's see what happens on that 3-3 for him. Then we got Lamb and Genty kicking it off for Pimp Juice here. So he went rookie RB and pretty much, I think, locked in as about everybody's RB3 already at this point. So I think that's properly rated there. Trey McBride at 2-5. So we got tight ends early. We got Marv Harrison 2-6, Brian Thomas 2-7, CJ Stroud 2-8, and then Anthony Richardson at 2-9. That's a hefty
He's on
reach
auto
there.
pick. He's on auto pick.
Yeah, he might have set his cue though, because he went off.
Well, Anthony Richardson did go at the end of the second round last time we did this too. So
Right.
I
He
think that's obviously way too early at this point. Way too early. Not even
way too
close.
early for sure. And
I'm a big Anthony Richardson buy low guy, but he is, eighth, ninth round. I mean, that's not really real.
yeah. So those guys could have set their cue and dipped for a second, and one just came back. People do that. So maybe he likes Anthony Richardson and likes the spot, is what it is. Too early for me. You could have got him 5 rounds later, most likely. Garrett Wilson, 210, Caleb Williams, 211, and just studs here, 210, 211, 212, Garrett Wilson, Caleb Williams, Brees Hall, like those picks. Then you got Nico leading us off on the third round reversal. You got Drake London at 3-2. We got AJ Brown at 3-3. Justin Herbert at 3-4. Jordan Love at 3-5. Kyler Murray at 3-6. And Drake May at 3-7. So a draft of runs here positionally, it seems. And then Saquon Barkley, newly world champion, and Jonathan Taylor catches us up in the draft at 3-9 there. So what are your thoughts? Garrett Wilson, Rodgers, Jets saying they don't want him back, essentially, it seems. What do you think about Wilson moving forward here?
About Wilson, I mean, I think he's going to be just fine. He's obviously put up some really good stats with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. It started out really hot this year with A-Rod, and then Devontae Adams comes over, and then him and Wilson and A-Rod has a little falling out. Um, I don't, I don't see how the Jets could even bring Aaron Rodgers back. I don't know who brings Aaron Rodgers in. Right? It seems like it just if Aaron Rodgers could read the room at all, you just be a little bit more open to your teammates. It just seems like there's such a distance. And obviously, I'm not in the locker room or anything, but like the body language is just it's catching up. It's been too long. It's too much. A couple years of this, and then the Jets is just old. It's just he came on strong. He played good the last couple games. Like the last couple games of the
Yeah.
year is by far his best. But it just I don't blame the Jets at all. Just saying, hey, we're turning the page. We're not going anywhere. When they had a top 5 roster in the league, right? We talked about that for the last couple years. Like they had really good players on the team and some dominant defense, and that defense wasn't so dominant, and just kind of got away from them. But I don't. I like them moving away from Aaron Rodgers, and I don't see how he brings a whole lot to the team part. Maybe he can help you on third down on Sundays, which means everything in the NFL. But still, like it seems like a stay away for me
For
for an
Rodgers or
NFL for an NFL franchise. I mean,
mm,
I guess if you're plug and play, like I don't. I think he could probably walk right into Minnesota and win games. I think that'll
mm,
be fine. But it feels like if you're a team who's not winning and you're not like if you're the Jets were supposed to be a quarterback away. And obviously Aaron got hurt. Nobody's fault,
yeah,
you know? But like at this point when he's 40 years old, he just mopes around and maybe he's awesome when the cameras aren't around. But in the game, in between the lines on Sunday, just it's like really no like that's my bad, like hey, I overthrew that. Like there's not enough of that to combat the gestures and the faces that he makes in the bodies, the throwing his arms up when somebody doesn't do something exactly right. It just too much for me, man. At this point, I'm over
yeah.
it.
I'd probably disagree a little bit with I think he was playing well. I think he came back from an injury at an older age, and then all of a sudden, back half of the season, oh look at that, he's playing really well. If I'm the Jets, I probably would have hung on to him for another year. I just don't think they have the management and the team build to do so. And yeah, some of that's got to fall on Rodgers. And yeah, he seems like a schmuck from the outside looking in on some shit. But I don't think you have a whole lot of choices here for what's going to be for New York. I think I'd be interested to see where he kind of goes and lands and comes out, because I do think there was some solid football at the end of the year, and at the end of the day, that's what you're kind of looking at. And if the Jets are saying, hey, we're good, we're just going to kind of turn the page and rebuild this thing a little bit, then understood. But you still have some good parts and pieces on that roster, so be interested to
Yeah,
see what.
I just don't my your quarterback already overshadows the team. He just there's just this lack of self awareness. He's too much of a schmuck. You say he seems kind of like a schmuck. Too much of a schmuck right this second for me. So schmuck meter's going way too high for me right now. But
Yeah,
he
I
did
don't
play
know.
really, really good down the stretch
Right.
for a
And
guy
it's
who could barely move.
I feel like, who's to say? I don't know. I feel like it's in vogue right now to tell you how much he sucks and yada yada yada. And I think there's probably a lot of guys in that locker room who probably still do like Aaron Rodgers a good bit. Like, I feel like
There's
if if
probably some
if
guys that
you were
connect
Aaron
with him.
Rodgers,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers in his position, like you'd probably feel some type of way too. Everybody always look, some of it's warranted, some of it you brought on yourself, but
Oh, he brought a lot of it on himself.
other parts
He
of it
asked
is
for
is
it.
people have always loved to talk shit about Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers, right? And so if you were in his position, you'd feel kind of the same way he does, right? Um,
Probably.
so I hate to put every single bit of it on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
And
it's easy to dump on Aaron Rodgers right now. So
yeah,
I'm
no
good
doubt.
on
Well,
that.
I'm not dumping on the actual football play either down the stretch. Like I said, last couple, and he
Right.
didn't even have to be playing.
And
You
that's the
know,
basis of kind of what I'm saying is like he's playing some good football, and that can kind of fix a lot of things. I'll be interested to see if he ends up in somewhere like Pittsburgh next year.
I could see it. I could take Pittsburgh actually. I
Yeah.
could take
All right.
Pittsburgh.
Let's keep it moving. Garrett Wilson's interesting though. Jets going to be rebuilding. Brees is, do they hang on to those pieces and make those guys focal points and try to attract something, or not? Either way, still very interested in both of those pieces. They've been successful without a key cog in the wheel there at the quarterback position, so not terribly concerned about that. But it could cost you a year and a half of good production from those guys. So interesting anyway. All right, so at 3-2. Or at 3-1, we had Nico. 3-2, we had Drake. 3-3, we had AJ Brown, Herbert, Love, Murray, Drake. Then we had Barkley, Taylor, HN at 310, JSN at 311, Laporta at 312, Purdy at 4-1, Dunze at 4-2, Trevor Lawrence at 4-3, Lad McConkey at 4-4, Kyron Williams at 4-5, T. Higgins at 4-6. Then we got Nix and Mayfield at 4-8. Omarion Hampton, second rookie off the board at 4-9. So you weren't here last week when we did our first one with rookies in it. Dak Prescott at 410, Jared Goff at 411, Penix at 5-1, Rashee Rice at 412. That's nice value right there. Bucky Irving at 5-2. That's nice value right there. Bryce Young at 5-3, Tet McMillan, your third rookie off the board, I believe. Zay Flowers at 5-5, Travion Henderson at 5-6. another rookie. So Josh Jacobs at 5'7", Tyler Warren at 5'8". We're unloading on the rookies, baby.
We are
Um,
unloading.
5'9" at Chris Olave and 5'10" at TJ Hawkinson. So, like I said, you weren't here last week. We talked about it in a show or two prior to this of how the rookies will start to affect, uh, you know, startups drafts and really value of uh, veteran players here, and you can kind of starting to see a little bit of it here and there. How do you feel? I know we've talked about it probably on every one of these, but Bryce Young at 5'3".
Man, I don't know if I'm gonna have the answer to that this year. I don't know if I'm gonna know that before we're at week 8 next year. I obviously if he carries on with that confidence that he had, the way he played the game, I don't why wouldn't it get better? Um, man, I'm gonna have to pass on that right this second. I don't mind being late to that comeback party. Um, I'll be late to that party. 4-7 Bo Nix to me feels like fantastic super flex quarterback value right now. I
Mm-hmm.
like that 4-7 Bo Nix. It gives me an opportunity. Like the guy's got Jamar Chase and he's got Chase and Harrison, and then he comes back and Kyler Murray at 3-6, which obviously Kyler Murray hurt a lot of feelings last year in fantasy football, but at 3-6 in Superflex, that's a nice little value pick right there too. So you get two stud wide receivers, and then you come up and now you still got two quarterbacks that can play, and then hits
Oh
Trayvon
yeah.
Henderson in the fifth
You,
round.
you
I like
stacked
that.
the you stacked the Kyler Marv, which I think is going to be just fine and really really good for years to come. But I like the start here with just how your mindset is on how you're starting that team. You got Chase, stud, Harrison. I'm quite confident is going to be a stud. Kyler Murray. I think, you know, I think maybe this year with Marv, they're at the end of the season. They seem like, hey, we're going to get this thing together. We're going to be better. We're going to come back stronger, fix some things here. And so I think Kyler could make a step back into being, really really solid fantasy quarterback. And you pair him with Bo Nix. I think this is a, and then you get Travion Henderson, who's a really really elite rookie as far as athleticism and skill sets. And it'll be interesting to see kind of where he lies. Anywhere from people's RB2 to RB5 right now, it seems. So, and then he goes right back with Caleb Johnson. So this is a build that I can really really get behind.
Yeah, I
I,
like it.
I like the way this build's kind of started off here. We left off at 5'10" with Hawkinson. There goes Xavier Worthy, James Cook, Waddle, Tucker Craft. Way too early for Tucker Craft. DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith, Jordan Addison, Caleb Johnson, and then Kenny Walker goes off the board. Let's go back and we can talk about a few more things back there, but I want to talk about Xavier Worthy.
All right.
I mean, would you rather have Xavier Worthy or Tet McMillan? And probably an
Mm.
unfair question for you because you're not super dialed into the rookies.
Yeah,
But you
I
kind of know
mean,
what the value of Tet McMillan is right now. It's 1-1-2, 1-3 for the most part.
yeah, I would rather have the draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be on the board with the ability to take Tet and then work off of that. But if you just give me the two wide receivers back to back, I mean, obviously Tet's probably the play,
Would
just
from
because
a year
he
from now, would you be surprised if you look back and said there is unquestioned that it should have been Xavier Worthy that you should have taken there at the 1-2?
No, how could you say that? I mean, he's been dominant the last 5, 6 football games,
Right.
and obviously the game was out of hand and it was a blowout. But Xavier Worthy got going in the second half last night or Sunday night, yeah, last night, and it didn't matter. Eagles were on cruise control. They're already partying on the sidelines, but for the first time in a long time, maybe a couple seasons, you could probably go back and look at it. I mean, that the second throw to Worthy, Mahomes threw it 60 something yards in the air, 60,
Mm-hmm.
65 yards in the air, and he hasn't done that in forever. I don't know last time I've ever seen him uncork like that.
Right.
And it was just on the money. And it's like, all right, well, coming into next year and 8 months from now, you gonna do that often? You know?
Well, that's
We
kind of
want
what
to see
I'm.
more than that. More
That's
of that, please.
that's kind of what I was alluding to. Like Xavier Worthy goes in this year, and I don't think they planned on having to be putting a whole lot on them. I think they planned on using them kind of how you saw them used early on. I think that was the install they had for Xavier Worthy, right? And
Yeah, which is
Rashi
still more than normal for rookies and Andy Reid. They were like, "Yeah, we're
and
gonna use him," but
right.
Rashee Rice getting hurt so early was a huge problem, and Hollywood Brown was supposed to be out there the whole time.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You had two guys that you were counting on to be your guys of veteran
Starters.
plays, of starters, of this is you can lean on these guys plus Kelsey, and then the rotation of the other guys who are pretty solid too,
And
right?
teach Xavier Worthy and teach him.
Right, and
Not
teach
that
him,
not that they
but
not that they couldn't help during the week, but, like, there's one thing to be on the sidelines after a bad 3 and out and be like, "Hey, young man, you remember this," and on maybe they don't talk like that, but you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
"Hey," but
they were kind of saying he went out and kind of learned every position, learned all the stuff, learned all the different nuances and stuff, and by the back half of the season, you could see that all had kind of started to click and come to fruition, and he was
it
more
was
than just
clicking.
that. And
It was clicking.
he I said from the jump with Worthy, like he wasn't just one of these guys who was fast at the combine. Like he can run routes. Like he's not scared to go over the middle of the field. He's not scared to take a hit. He might be small, but never played with any fear and was always a pretty solid damn wide receiver. And then on top of that, he blew the combine up. And then I think you just kind of saw all that click. And now when you bring Rashee Rice back into the fold, and I don't know what's going to happen with Hollywood Brown. Do you sign him for another year or not? I mean, I think he'd be stoked. He didn't get a fair run at it. So I think he'd probably resign for a low couple million, right?
Definitely.
And run this thing back. And is Xavier Worthy just because, does this does it shift a little bit off the Chiefs defense back to the Chiefs offense? Obviously, you got to maybe fix a little bit of offensive line issue, but like we've been waiting for Patty to come back and explode back onto the scene. And I feel like obviously again, they were getting blown out, but I just feel like Xavier Worthy could be that thing that really helps you get these big explosive plays back. And Rashi can do it too. Rashi can get you vertical, but
Yeah.
and then all of those guys can work underneath. So I don't know, man. I feel like Worthy is super underrated right now, and obviously he's going at 5'11". But I mean, would you rather have Worthy or Chris Olave at this point?
Worthy.
I think so too. Worthy
Yeah,
or Zay
I mean,
Flowers?
Worthy.
Probably Worthy. And it,
So,
and I and this is a Zay guy. I'm a Zay lover, right? So that's what kind of why I was saying 10 or I know it seems crazy, but that was my
yeah,
thought
and
process.
well, even in the way Dynasty works, even a year from now, saying Worthy's the unquestioned guy, the answer to that question, we're talking about being at the end of McMillan's rookie year. So we could easily not know that much about him at the end of this year, in 1 year. So for Tet is, if you, I said McMillan, Tet, if Tet's the guy in that question, you could not know much about him in a year. But but as bad as the Chiefs got beat last night, that was that was a third straight Super Bowl, you know.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, they got manhandled, but uh, you know, 2 minutes before kickoff, they were a 1 point favorite against that team, you know. So yeah, they got killed. The game plan worked. They didn't even have to blitz. They, like you said, when you were on your opening rant, like that was the biggest. Like they got there with 4, which is outrageous.
Yeah,
All night long, consistently. They lived in the backfield. It was a sack fest, and it was crazy. So let's just not, there's nothing wrong with the Chiefs. They just
right.
they brought
I mean,
an
their run
injured.
defense was great. They play,
Yeah, they had a good plan to keep Saquon. They just they they got manhandled at the line of scrimmage. They basically the same thing the Rams did to Sam Darnold a couple weeks before that in the playoffs and made Sam Darnold lose millions of dollars
right,
because he looked like a deer in the headlights. Well, Patrick
right,
Mahomes looked terrible last night.
right.
Terrible. But let's not pretend like they didn't just win. They got the most wins in the last 3 years,
Yeah,
And he's been to more AFC Championship games and he has what interceptions this year, maybe, you know.
1,000. Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's nothing
yeah.
wrong with the Chiefs, and
Right.
Worthy's going to be Worthy is an ascending superstar.
Well, and we've just heard, people worried about Mahomes in this offense, and I think we'll see. We saw it with Tom on these runs. Tom had like 3 MVP seasons in
Yeah,
throughout his and the defense was big for Tom to start, and then it was Tom on offense, and then you know what I mean. So I
yeah,
think we'll
yeah, yeah.
see evolution of Patrick Mahomes. Real quick, we have YouTube memberships coming to you live. Another way to give you us a $5 holler. If you're not a Patreon kind of guy, you can subscribe to a YouTube membership. Get us a $5 holler that way. You get linked to the Discord, so you get all the stuff that's going on over there. and you get the Patreon episodes straight to your little YouTube fingertips, video wise. And it's a really good way if you're more of a YouTube guy and you don't want to leave, you can support the team that way by giving a YouTube membership, $5 holler over there. So make sure you go check those out whenever you get the chance. Appreciate you guys. So
I think we left off at Walker at 6'8", right?
We left off at Walker at 6'8", and I wanted to read a stat real quick, which is why I bookmarked that one right there. For FFD, Big D, hit me with a good stat today and said Mahomes was pressured 13 times today, according to PFF, in our 7 losses. This is Seahawks. In our 7 losses in 2024, our line gave up an average of 20 pressures a game in the season. That's the Seahawks offensive line. That was from a Seahawks perspective, how I was reading that. So for what the Chiefs gave up last night, the Seahawks were worse than that on average every single game. So for Kenny Walker and the quarterback and crew, that should improve, and we should be able to. Kenny Walker, I think, is a screaming value right now.
I like that. Did he say that Mahomes got pressured 12 times?
13 times.
Oh, man, it felt like 43. I know. I'm not saying that the Seattle offensive line wasn't great. I mean, wasn't terrible, and I'm not saying that they didn't get pressured 20 times a game like the stat says. But you can't tell me that Pat Mahomes looked like that against 13 pressures. It was they had 10 yards
right
at halftime.
Point being is that the Seahawks line was civvy in leaking at points in the
Kenny
season.
Walker. With your Kenny Walker buy low. I like it.
So we got Tua coming in at 6'9". I know you are never drafting Tua, but I think that's pretty good value.
I'm never drafting Tua.
Judkins at 6'10". McCarthy at 6'11". Sammy D at 6'12". Keon Coleman at 7'12". Or sorry, I'm going no reversal there. My bad. Sam Darnold at 6'12".
Keon Coleman at 7. What? Sorry.
No, yeah. Sam Darnold at 6'12", which I like that. Christian McCaffrey at 7'1", Cam Ward at 7'2". So RKB just got Goff, McCarthy, and Ward all in one foul swoop here over the last few rounds. Like that. Christian McCaffrey 7'1", properly rated. Dougie, shout out Dougie Fresh right there. Luther Burden coming in with our guy Chev. That's my WR2 as it stands right now. Brandon Ayuk at 7'4", Egbuka at 7'5", Shador Sanders at 7'6". So, I like a little bit of respect on these rookie quarterback names. Good job, drafters here. I think they're going to end up being a little higher than that. Andrews at 7'7", Pickens at 7'8", Kincaid at 7'9", Judy, Big Booty Judy at 7'10". Chase Brown 7'11". Those rookies pushing Chase Brown ADP down a little bit, baby. You got to like that. Keon Coleman, then Jaden Reed, rather. Interesting player there. Not sure what to do with him. And we'll circle back to that. Jalen McMillan, 8'2". Devin Neal, 8'3". That's my guy. Love Devin Neal. Derrick Henry, 8'4". Jameson Williams, 8'5". Chuba Hubbard, 8'6". Loveland, 8'7". So the rookie tight end from Michigan. Scatabo, 8'8". Joe Mixon, 8'9". Travis Etienne, 8'10". Golly, what a value. George Kittle at 8'11", Ramondre Stevenson at 8'12", Chris Godwin 9'1", Pearsall 9'2", and we'll circle back to Niners talk for a second here in a little bit. Tyreek at 9'3", that's interesting. McLaurin 9'4", Josh Downs 9'5", Kamara 9'6", Monty 9'7", and Jackson Dart at 9'8". Where you want to circle back to first here, Big Co?
Well, like you said, those rookie quarterbacks, like last time I did this mock draft with us, I think I got Cam Ward at maybe the 8-11 spot. So 7-2 Cam Ward is a lot, a lot less value. But I still think there's plenty of value there. I think he could end up being pretty slept on in this process. Let's see another name. Like Scatabo is probably a second round rookie pick. Which he shouldn't be. Probably should be a little better than that. And then for him to go 8-8, that seems a little bit early, but yet definitely understandable. Ramondre Stevenson at 8-12 is understandable and it probably a good buy, but like I feel like somebody like and obviously his team build, but like a Ricky Pearsall to me is much more valuable in Dynasty than a Ramondre Stevenson right this second. So they're just a name that sticks out. It's like I don't think I can pull that trigger. Obviously, at the end of the 8th round, you're not really making or breaking your team per se. But if you pick up a couple of really good youngsters, all of a sudden you could look loaded. But then you get that veteran running back that's scoring points in week 1. You can look loaded as well. There's multiple ways to go about it. I like the team he's got. Just might would have Stevenson might not have been my pick there, even though I think he could definitely score some points for a player this year, for a team this year.
Yeah. Real quick, we got our first ever super chat from Jeremiah Dibble. He said, "What is good? Love the content. Did the other guy stop stealing your content? Stop, or are we going to have to go teach him a lesson?" Cheers. Thank you, Jeremiah Dibble. To my knowledge, he has not stopped, and we haven't heard from him. So we might get our team to go after his team. Maybe a cease and assist letter.
Yeah,
Just
maybe
kidding.
a flag football game for the rights to keep it going. Even though we obviously own those rights.
We got receipts, dog. We got receipts.
Oh, you can just go look it up. It's
got
years
receipts.
and years in the making.
We'll give him some time for this to get back to him and change his ways, and then we'll go on the full on assault, because we can't have two what is good. You can have what's good, but not what period is period good.
You can't enunciate the is. You can combine them and say what's good. You can have what's.
Yeah.
You can't say what is. That
give you
no way.
Yeah. No way. No way. No how.
No way.
Can't have it. Can't live with them. Can't win with them.
They are who we thought they were.
Little Singletary,
Yeah.
Vernon Davis.
Vernon
can't do it.
He said that man changed his life.
He did. He
shouted out to him.
Yeah. So the Stevenson maybe a little early there. Probably more of a 10th round pick for me. But I know Doug likes the idea of what Vrabel can do with Stevenson, and we've seen Stevenson be a guy who can put up top 12 RB numbers in both the passing and the running game. He's a very effective running back. If they can change their offensive line setting a little bit, we know that they're going to preach physicality and kind of want to win the day on that with a Vrabel coach team, right? And we would assume the defense will improve. They're going to make strides to do that. They got a lot of cap room and Drake May. So, looking back by this time next year, it could be a good pick. But what you're saying is more just the value that you're getting there. You could go somewhere else and probably still get Stevenson. But hey, you take your guys and get your guys, right?
Yeah, and listen, I agree with all that what you just said about the Vrabel factor, and then you add in Drake May being able to throw it a mile and his ability to run around. The defensive stress that they're going to shell out, Stevenson could be really, really good. It's just in the startup factor, like at 8-12, to say somebody that's early, it's kind of funny sounding. At 8-12, you're far enough in. You got the meat and potatoes of your team going already. But it's just like, all right, well, I've probably say it every year about this time in the draft, 8-12, getting in that 9th round. It's like, all right, well, let me stack some of these younger guys that could be hits. But then, you get into the season, you're playing against that guy that drafted Alvin Kamara in the 9th round. And those younger guys that you took stabs on to see if they could multiply their value, they're sitting on your bench hanging out or in your lineup. But that one, that veteran running back that's catching balls in a PPR league is helping another team do work. It's a trade-off.
Yeah. How about Jaden Reed over there? You heard Josh Jacobs on the Super Bowl run saying they needed a number one to come in there who's just a proven commodity at number one.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt Jaden Reed's not playing the number one wide receiver role in that offense anyway.
Right. And there, he came out hot and I came on and was like, hey, I don't even care what it is. Like he's a stud. Just get him the ball, which is still very true.
He's still a stud. He's not a stud.
Right. You still need essentially the number one to get out there and be the guy on. That's just that, Devontae Adams out there for you, which, I can't imagine that's going to happen. But, Chris Godwin I don't know how much cap they have and what's going to happen, but maybe they're looking to address it with a veteran. I can't imagine they're going to draft another guy to come in there to be that guy, but maybe they will. Packers like drafting receivers a little late. People are kind of hitting at Wicks, and I feel like Wicks kind of had his shot, and just I don't think he's the guy you want saying that's my guy. He's a nice story, nice guy, nice player, like having him on the team, but I'm not 1,000% sure he's going to break out into some every week starter that's just an absolute dog. But stranger things have happened, and I he certainly has the frame, and then he can get open. It's just been a little unreliable.
Well, the whole offense was unreliable this year where the quarterback kept getting hurt. The only thing was
Mm-hmm.
reliable is about they just like, all right, let's just hand it to Jacobs and try to get
Mm,
some W's,
mm.
And so it was working. And like this every sale list that I've seen in the last couple weeks has Jaden Reed on it. So let him continue to get a little bit cheaper. He might be an ultimate buy
Yeah.
because he's still super young and he's an absolute stud. Now, is he out there a polished route runner right this second? No. And is it a lot of fun and in vogue to get that young route runner, right now, like a Lad McConkey walks into the game being one of the best route runners? Yeah. Why wouldn't you want a guy like that? But Coleman, I mean, but Reed is, he takes the top off, whether it's an end around or they got a really good scheme of getting,
Well, you
him
just
the
got to get the
ball.
ball in that guy's hands.
Sometimes, like sometimes it looks really easy to get him the ball, and sometimes he just disappears.
Yeah.
Obviously, the inconsistency is great. Like it just it's great as it's just a vast, like, hey, no
Right.
targets,
Right. Right. Right.
no targets, 0 targets, and then he looks like he's the guy the next week they come out and they get him 4 touches in the first quarter, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, so he could end up being a really, really good buy after he's on everybody's sell list for a little while and is, at 8-1, I'm probably not ready to pull the trigger yet, and let's let him get. But see, just like you said, in the offseason last year, I was very big on passing on him and taking other assets. And then after first 2 weeks of the season, I'm like, dude, he's too much fun. Why wouldn't you want him on your roster? So in a mock draft after the season started or some rankings, he goes up into a third or fourth startup round value because
Mm-hmm.
he was awesome and everybody and I think they might have had the Monday night game to start the season, or was it I think the Monday night game against the Eagles in Brazil or something.
Yeah.
So even in a sloppy field, but he looked incredible.
Oh,
So like
sure.
when you get that standalone game, we've been waiting for football. We finally get it. And all of a sudden, Jaden Reed is the fastest guy on the field. Nobody can put their hands on him. So it's just fun.
Yeah.
And then it became not fun if he was on your team because you had to put him on the bench.
Right. Right.
So I think I'm looking for a buy window for Jaden Reed, and he could be now not necessarily just specifically going to buy him 1-for-1 for whatever draft pick or whatever, but as a throw in a bigger deal. Somebody of his name equity this time a couple months ago, that would sound that he would draw so much more weight. But after the season, you go through the dynasty playoffs. He gives you gives you a 0 1 week, and he's on your bench the next week when he only has a couple touches. So all of a sudden, Jaden Reed, definitely somebody who could become a throw-in a trade.
Yeah. All right, we're going to hop back into this draft here real quick, but we want to talk about our new proud partnership with Fast Draft. Like we said, it's the fastest, easiest fantasy app on the planet. If you want to go ahead and download that app and use promo code FFD, go ahead and do that. It's down at the bottom, so you don't forget it. But Fast Drafts is a best ball style platform that gets you in and out in under 10 minutes per draft. There's multiple different formats to compete in. You can do an Origins draft, which is an all rookie draft, exclusive to Fast Drafts, of course. You simply draft 6 rookies at any position and then set your boosters at the end of the draft and compete to win cash. It really couldn't be any simpler than what it is right there. It's super fun because who doesn't love a I'm smarter than you contest when it comes down to the new crop of rookies? So put your knowledge to the test and try out the Origins from Fast Drafts. And if you want to do something more than that, more, OG best ball type stuff, they have another format that you can go with right now. You can go the traditional route with a Flex 4 league. You draft 6 players, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then you set your boosters and you're ready to compete. And in all these, it's 10 teams, it's 6 rounds, so it's 60 players. Anybody listening can draft 60 players, which
Right.
makes this style of best ball so much fun. And again, it takes 10 minutes to draft your team. And in this day and age, who wants to spend any more time drafting than that? So the next time you're sitting on the can or you're sitting on the couch doom scrolling, and you just want to draft a team, you can pull this up, download Fast Draft, put in promo code FFD. It gets you double your first deposit and up to $25 with promo code FFD. We'll deposit match that. And then there's no rake in these tournaments right now. And you can really, exploit these early ADPs right now. I know you're saying, hey, it's a little early. I don't want to be Hey, go ahead and download it now. Do a couple drafts here, and like I said, when you're sitting on the couch, you're taking a morning sit on the old commode there, or you're just laying in bed at night, can't fall asleep. Pop that thing open, hop in one of these bad boys. You're in and out under 10 minutes, and it's a whole lot of fun. We'll be doing a lot of content on it. So make sure you download Fast Draft and use promo code FFD when you download that bad boy, and you get up to $25 on your first deposit.
Yeah, good stuff. It's going to be a fun time to knock out those drafts this year. Like you said, just 6 players. I mean, you can do that, and you know, yeah,
No
and
problem.
flex style too. Get you a couple running backs one time, come back around the next time, get you a bunch of running back, get you a bunch of wide receivers.
You don't have any limit
Mix it
on
up.
what you have to play, right? You're
Yeah,
just drafting guys, right? So everybody has a
drafting
depth
guys.
of knowledge that's at least that deep. They're going to be adding anything defense only on the other side. So if you want to draft both sides of the ball and sweat both sides of the ball, you could do that coming soon. So good stuff over there. We're excited to be a part of the Fast Draft family, and we're going to be putting out tons of stuff over there. So make sure you go check that out. All right, let's hop back into this draft. We left off at
9-8 Jackson Dart.
at Jackson Dart. Then you got Cole Kmet coming in
Too
at
early.
the 9-9. Maybe. Calvin
Too
Ridley
early
at the
for Komet
9-10.
there.
Probably too early from what I've been seeing with Komet, but that could easily be a just a smash right there with Benny Johnson and Caleb next year.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys you could say that for. Yeah, it's just just too early, unnecessary, basically. Not
You just hate Komet. It's okay. I had to argue with
No,
the
I do.
Komet last year. You hate Komet. It's okay. It's okay.
I do not.
It's early. It's early. You're right, but could be huge. Calvin Ridley 9-10, Connor 9-11, Ollie Gordon 9-12. Interessante. Evan Ingram at 10-1. Mike Evans 10-2. So how you feel about Evan Ingram there at 10-1?
Way earlier than what we've seen recently.
Okay, but is that too
Again,
early?
probably.
Okay, not as committed as Cole Kmet being too early though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to take Evan Ingram there at 10-1. I mean,
I don't.
Njoku's
I
still
mean,
on the board. That's
you're
really
usually
flag planting right there.
you've been able to go probably a round or so more on Evan Ingram. I'll check on that FFD ADP here in just a second.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And we don't have the
it's lower
rookies
than
added
that.
into that ADP yet, so we're working on that. Mike Evans at 10-2. That could be just a league wiener. Brian Robinson 10-3. Rashad White 10-4. Got no idea what to do with him. Khalil Shakir 10-5. Trey Harris 10-6. Jalen Royals 10-7. Trey Harris at 10-6 is a steal. David Njoku 10-8. Kyle Pitts 10-9. Jatavion Sanders at 10-10. Chev Bud, that might be a hair early. Tyrone Tracy 10-11.
Okay.
Isaiah Pacheco 10-12. What's that?
I checked. I got Evan Ingram at 13-3 last time we did this, but that was before Liam Cohen was in Jacksonville. So I got to catch up the times.
Yeah. We got Pittman coming in at 11-1. Fanning, Bowling Green tight end at 11-2. Golden 11-3. Texas wide receiver getting a lot of love. Travis Hunter going at 11-4. It seems like people are getting more and more, I'm a little concerned about Travis Hunter maybe going to be on the defensive side of the ball more than the offensive side of the ball. So just a weird player right now to deal with, but obviously awesome. No slight to him, but most likely going to play corner, it seems. Jalen Warren at 11-05, Dylan Sampson 11-06, Sutton at 11-7, Alec Yamanor, I'm always screw his name up, 11-8, Tank Dell 11-9, Tony Pollard 11-10, Trey Benson 11-11, and Cooper Kupp 11-12, Debo Samuel 12-1, DJ Giddens, Kansas State running back 12-2, Arroyo, the new tight end that people are in love with. So I don't mind that pick right there. He's going to move up in this draft. Just a big fellow who can move around, run fast, bend well.
Potentially very fast.
Potentially.
Dude, I think they said they clocked him at 21 miles an hour. The boys said it might be the fastest tight end ever at 6'5", 250 or something.
Yeah. Not
Crazy.
a whole, hadn't had a crazy, been a little banged up through his career. And then him and Cam Moore got together here. Put some stuff down. DeAndre Swift, interesting at 12-4 for me. Cedric Tillman, 12-5 all day. Isaiah Likely, 12-6. Goddard, 12-7. Sharbs, 12-8. Dobbins, 12-9. Stafford, 12-10. Jacoby Myers, 12-11. Devontae Adams, 12-12. Justin Fields, 13-1. Garendo, Bateman, Milrow, and Geno Smith, the next couple off the board. Then we got our guy, Jack Besh, coming in at 13-6. Jaden Higgins, Iowa State wide receiver, 13-7. Jalen Coker, 13-8. Javonte Williams, 13-9. Najee Harris, 13-10. I mean, Marvin Mims, 13-11. Corum, 13-12. Just a, interesting group of guys there for sure. Leggett 14-1, Jennings 14-2, Theo Johnson, or no, sorry, Tez Johnson at 14-3, Jonathan Brooks 14-4, Cade Otten 14-5, and Ferguson at 14-6, and we are all caught up. All right. So, a lot to digest here. I want to go back to Pacheco there at 10-12 real quick. Saw a lot of killing Isaiah Pacheco, and replacement got replaced by a guy off the couch and Kareem Hunt. And I just this is just like everything else. It would seem like the context is pretty easy here, but like broken fibula, and then came back and played, and you could see he was not the Isaiah Pacheco was that guy who was just like this explosion monster that was just like reckless abandon everywhere. Looked like he ran all crazy, and it wasn't there. And we saw Tony Pollard have the same injury in the playoffs, I think against San Francisco, and then wasn't right until the back half of the following season. You just saw Mark Andrews talk about how the fibula injury was like the hardest thing he's ever had to come back from. Dude, he's not right. That's why Kareem Hunt looked better than he did, because he wasn't right. He came back here, tried to get back for his team and play, and he didn't have his explosive nature back. Now, was he gonna be a replacement guy at some point? Probably so. And not that we were hard and fast on Pacheco by any means, but he started off excellent this season and was showing out in the passing game. And so I think right now Pacheco is probably a pretty solid value, because I think Pollard returned to form. I think Pacheco can return to form. And do I think that Kansas City will add some competition there? Most likely. But still, I the 11th round Pacheco seems, I don't know, good value to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think as the season goes on, as the off season goes on, I think he gets lower than that. That we get to know these rookies more. I think that right now, most people that are watching this might not know, like if Royals at 10-7, what that J stands for. T Harris, they might not even, they probably know what Trey, they probably know that's Trey Harris, but you know what I mean? Like the more we get to know these rookies, I feel like Pacheco drops even further in this draft as we go. I think the Chiefs would be silly not to draft a running back. I'm not asking them to draft it at 131. I'm not asking them to draft him at 231. But with the depth and the quality of running back in here, you'd be silly not to get one in the third or fourth round, or at the fifth. But whoever sticks around, because there's supposedly 20 really good ones. It's probably might be pushing for the record for most running backs drafted ever. They say in one single rookie draft, in the NFL draft. So just a whole lot of deep, depth of good rookie running backs coming out. So be silly for the Chiefs not to add and give Patrick Mahomes more weapons. That being said, I do agree with what you said about Pacheco's value. And, listen, he was in a fifth, sixth round dynasty startup last year on the Chiefs, starting running back. Like they picked up Kareem Hunt off the free agency pool, So I feel like I think Pacheco coming into the year, if the Chiefs grab one of the rookies that we're enjoying, that we like, maybe the top 7 or 8 guys, all the way past your boy Neil, we get past even like somebody who's on like Ollie Gordon, like that dude was a beast a couple months back, like a year ago. That was all everybody liked, and then
RB1.
right, it was Judkins, and then it was Ollie Gordon, and then no, it was this guy, and then no, it's like it's just a bunch of guys out there. So if the Chiefs draft one of those bigger name guys that had some really good run in college for a minute, he'll continue to go down. And I don't think he could scream up because of what
No.
So if they don't draft one until 6th or 7th round, and it's like one of those guys that maybe like that 18th best rookie running back, then I still don't think he goes screaming up. Maybe he moves up a round or two, but now you're talking about maybe 9th, 10th round Pacheco, 10, 12 here. But if he stays in the 10th round, that's actually pretty good considering, like I said, everybody's going to get to know these rookies. So I think in the dynasty startup, as we go through the season, or as we go through the offseason here, get the NFL draft out of the way, you'll be able to have a little bit more, confidence in your Pacheco 10th round pick. You know,
Yeah.
I think he's, I think he could be just fine. But if they bring in, you know, Ollie Gordon or better kind of guy, I don't know how far we go down and talk about like the Dylan Sampsons of the world and stuff. I don't know how far down you need to go where you're like, all right, well, Pacheco's still going to be the guy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there's just, I think the Chiefs would be silly not to get a decent back this
Yeah,
year in the
no,
draft.
I tend to agree, and we did a mock that was Matt Miller's, and he had him taking Travion Henderson at 64 or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Um,
why
you
not?
know,
Sure, go for it.
and maybe they do, but if it's like, but why though? Like, just spend the third, fourth, fifth round capital on one,
Hmm.
and work on other parts and pieces that you go all offensive line, whatever you got to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe it will be, but I could see it being a little bit later, and maybe Pacheco holding on to that job for a year, and then maybe going somewhere else and being replaced. But I just wanted to reference that. I think Pacheco isn't all of a sudden dust and no good. I think he came back from a fibula that takes a year or so to get your explosion back, right?
I will say this, but I know it's a lot of Pacheco talk, but whoever's listening to this 52 minutes in, whether it's podcast or Dynasty of YouTube right here, not live, but if you're just watching it, like Casey and I put out a video in the off season where we have a team. We were going for the championship. Got a studded out roster, and we're ready to make our moves and trade our draft picks. And Pacheco was in one of those talks and one of those conversations that we had. Do we want to trade our first round pick next year for Pacheco? But we ended up in that video at putting some things together and multiplying some draft pick power and going up, and we got a Monra St. Brown. You know, that's the type of videos that we put out last year talking to trades, and what it did, it's kept us from when you quote unquote go all in to win, right? We put a little bit extra, and the dynasty asset that we got and added to our roster was a 24-year-old Amon St. Brown, not a 25-year-old running back who has no draft capital, and people are here after coming off a broken leg, ready to throw him out like he's no good.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just wanted to give Pacheco a little love. So, all right, we've completed this draft here. We went back through. Ferguson went off the board at 14-6. We had Braylon Allen, um, Xavier Restrepo, which is a strong pick. Spears is a fun pick. Shaheed's a fun pick. Isaiah Bond was a first rounder coming into this year. Just kind of had a slow year. Maybe banged up kind of throughout a little bit. Hollywood Brown at 14-12, sure. Uh, and then, a bunch of interest, Christian Watson, what do you do with him? Diggs in the 15th round. Jalen Wright is probably going to have a role this year. I might like Wright even more than Sampson from Tennessee at the time. Damian Martinez, hammer of a running back. Woody Marks from USC is a fun running back, great receiving back, and can really chop it up. Jordan James is one of my favorite kind of secondary running backs, like in that late second round. So I like Blander did another good job there. We gave him some love at the beginning of the video. Christian Kirk, Brashad Smith. I knew Chev was going to take him there. He could fit into that, Tyrone Tracy ilk. Obviously not as big as him, coming in at 5'9", like 196, but a wide receiver transfer from Miami, and then coming into SMU and crushing it. And then you saw all eyes on him in the championship game. Had 11 targets, 7 receptions, and a touchdown, and added another 109 yards on the ground. Could be kind of a Tyrone Smith-esque path, or a Tyrone Tracy rather esque pass to some touches in the league. Mooney, a late round pick. Jonnu Smith, a late round pick. Ray Davis, RJ Harvey,
John
Quinn Ewers,
Johnu at 16-10 is
tight
really,
end
really good.
premium. Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah. So obviously we're only going 16 rounds here, and you don't get to pick them all, but let's run through a couple teams here before we get out. We'll start. We got Dougie fresh in the corner over here. St. Brown, Bowers, Nico Rice. Decent.
Solid start. Love that actually. And St. Brown Bowers, that could be Neighbors is right there, Puka's right there. I love the Bowers part. If you Bowers and Neighbors, Bowers and Brown, Bowers and Puka, it's hard to take,
You know, I,
anybody Brown or Neighbors, coin flip, Bowers. I'm the tight end and one of those wide receivers I think is a really smart pick.
we talked about it. I don't think you were on the show yet. or have been on, but they hire Chip Kelly as their OC with maybe it was Patreon actually. Patreon.com/FFD $5 holler, extra episode every week. Go check that out. Plus rankings, ADP, all that good stuff. Make sure you go check that out, or you could do YouTube membership and get access to all that stuff as well. So new ways to view your stuff for your pleasure. But Chip Kelly and Bowers, I think you got to be excited about that. I think you kind of have to erase a little bit of what you thought about Chip Kelly from the last stint in the NFL and say, hey, he's revisited some things, he's figured some other things out. He did got into maybe a little bit of a rut there of getting stubborn, of calling run plays against Michigan for Ohio State, and then they came out and just exploded on the back half of that. So adjustments, and him having Brock Bowers as a weapon. Now we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be, but you got to, went from a scenario where you were like, I'm unsure, to like, I feel personally pretty confident about Bowers moving forward with who his OC is going to be.
Yeah, well, that's you. I didn't feel anything wrong with Bowers. No hesitation at all about my comfort level with Bowers. I don't think he even needs an offensive coordinator. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he needs a quarterback. We might
You
could just
just
snap it to him.
got to get out there and continue to use him. I just don't want somebody to jam a round peg into a square hole and F that up. And so that makes me feel good about Chip Kelly of, hey, use this guy like he's should be used.
And it's Chip Kelly, been in the NFL before, and you could it didn't end well, but it started out on fire. And there's another guy that we just went through that with this year with Cliff Kingsbury.
Right.
Didn't end well for him, started out on fire. And even when it started out good for the Washington Commanders this year, it's so hard for me to say Commanders. I just don't even like to say it. If people were waiting, all right, well, when is Kingsbury going to fall off? When's Jay Daniels going to run out because Kingsbury can't, readjust to the adjustments that the, by the time you get to game 5, 6, 7, 8, and the defenses in the NFL see what you're trying to do. All right, this is how we're going to play against you. But Chip Kelly come in here do the same thing. He's been in the NFL. He had tremendous success with the Eagles.
Right. But
big slot with Jordan Matthews, invented the big slot with Jordan Matthews.
Right. But I think you
Jordan
can
Matthews before Marquise Colston.
Right. And I think you can kind of take the crazy tempo stuff out of your, like, it's not going to be that, right? We're gonna see a large adjustment. It wasn't that when he went to UCLA, right? He did with what he needed to do as a head coach, and then did what he needed to do at Ohio State to elevate them to a national championship.
Yeah, they won't be sprinting to the line to get
Right.
it snapped before the defense could get aligned every play. But I don't think that they're going to be running slow by any means. I expect them to be in the top 25% in pace of play. So that
Right.
gives you
It's
more
just not
snaps.
what I'm saying is it's not going to be the Eagles, which everybody was like, what the fuck are you doing when this isn't
Yeah.
working? You're putting us in a terrible position. I think that's lesson learned at this point.
Yeah.
So then we got Penix and Darnold in this one. We got McCaffrey and Stevenson. You voiced your disdain for that Stevenson pick, just value wise. But then he comes back with Godwin, gets Pacheco, got a little love for there. Then we got Pittman at 11-1. That's fucking ridiculous.
That is. Pittman is your 1, 2, 3, 4. Is your fifth receiver, and you got quarterbacks, a tight end, and 3 running backs already. I mean, that's put it in perspective to how good that value is on Pittman at 11-1.
Yeah, and then you get Devontae, which that's
Sure.
do whatever you want to do there.
Start him every week right now.
Sure. Then you got Fields, which is a nice value pick right there. We're going to do an episode of the QB landscape, so be interesting to see kind of where he lands. Maybe he's the Pittsburgh quarterback, maybe not, but somebody might need his services. And then I think Derek Carr is probably still on the board if you needed him a little later here, right? Good value right now. Then Hollywood, Freiermuth, and Mooney, just good values right there.
Great values, all 3 of them.
Maybe you would like to see Jonnu instead of Freiermuth, but Freiermuth a little younger than Jonnu, and he's got Bowers. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I picked on the Stevenson pick, but then you look at it. I mean, Chris Godwin, even at 9-1, obviously he got hurt, but if he didn't get hurt, he'd be in the 4th round. So you got Godwin, Pacheco with 10-12. Pacheco today is great value. So Godwin, Pacheco, Pittman, Adams. I mean, he's got a whole starting lineup from the 9th round on. To go with some young studs. I mean, it's a well constructed roster. Sam Darnold at 6'12 might have been a little early, but you got to do what you got to do when you're on the end of when you're at one of the turns like that. You're looking at quarterbacks in a super flex. 24 picks is a lot before it gets back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't take Sam Darnold, I'm taking Sam Darnold here, and just to make sure that when I get back, I don't have to wait 3 or 4 rounds and look in the Geno Smith, Matt Stafford bargain bin.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of people are down on Sam, but I think you'll find that both me and Big Co are going to be just fine with having Sam Darnold as a starting quarterback next year. He's going to be somewhere starting, and will the situation be the same as the Vikings? No. Will it be the Vikings? Probably not,
maybe.
but I, I think it's silly not to. But hey, they like JJ, and if they're comfortable with JJ, go for it.
Hey,
But
I'm all about you might not hear too many people talking higher about KOC than me right now. Maybe there was people talking higher about him before me, but I learned my lesson watching him the last couple years. But like I'm all about a system, but I mean Sam Darnold went for, again, I said it last time I was on the program a few weeks ago, for over 4,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns.
yeah,
A system is a system, but that's still the NFL. You're still playing and dominating teams outside of the Lions and basically the NFC North altogether. Like NFC, and when you throw the Eagles into that, like they just crushed all the other teams. So
yeah,
Darnold was part of that, and I know it's a system, and I know it's a good team, but 40 something, 43, 4,400 yards and 34, 35 touchdowns.
yeah,
You had to sling it.
yeah. All right. Chev starts out with Bijan Puka, AJ Brown. So that's a stack that I like, that Bijan Puka, and then he went AJ Brown there. Then he could Dak and Bryce Young, which I like Bryce Young. I'm okay. I'm prepared to take Bryce Young there at this point. I know Big Code not feeling super strong about that, but I mean at that point I guess you could have waited for Sam Darnold or another rookie quarterback, or just drafted another quarterback late, but just kind of how that board fell to you. I don't mind taking Bryce there. Then he went Judkins, Burden, ETN. I like I know Chev personally, and he likes Judkins quite a bit, which at this point I don't mind you taking Judkins at all. He's still just sitting there staring you in the face. Burden is my WR2. I really like that guy. Don't let the Twitter people fool you that you're concerned about 2024. The 2023 was all I needed to see, baby. He was so dirty. And they just weren't very good this year. And then you can go back and look at, I mean, that South Carolina game, ask them about Luther Burden at the end of the game, right?
Yeah,
Um,
well, he looks a whole lot like CeeDee Lamb with the ball in his hands.
oh, he's so
It's
he's so filthy with the ball in his
yeah.
hands.
So I got to
So
figure
filthy.
out. I'm way behind you on rookies
People
and
are
stuff.
hating on him right now.
I
Keep
got to
hating,
figure
baby.
out. I got to figure out his route running ability.
I don't give a
Uh,
two shits.
well, you should
Just
give it. You should have one shit about whether or not he can
I
run a
don't. It doesn't
route.
matter. Like I just
Well, if it doesn't
it's
matter, you
good
might
enough.
have.
It's
If it
good
doesn't
enough
matter, you
of.
might have another Jaden Reed on your hands.
It's good enough.
Got to do something.
It's he was so filthy in 2023, catching a million balls. You think he was topping near the top in yards after catch, missed tackles force, first down, just was absolutely obliterated it in 2023. And then, Missouri just kind of fell off, quarterback play fell off, spreading it around a little bit more. And no, Luther Burden can run enough routes that I'm not worried about. I think it's maybe currently one of the biggest things where people are like, well, what about his route tree? I'm like, dude, if he can run a few routes, what about Brian Thomas's route tree last year? All anybody wanted to tell you about is his route tree. He ran overs and vertical routes. Like,
Hmm.
he never route tree. DK Metcalf didn't have a route tree. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're good and you're a good player, like if that's what they're asking you to do, like there's no way that those guys can't figure out how to run routes. I just don't really care that much. Luther Burden has proved on the college level. Jaden Reed never did what Luther Burden did on the college level, right?
It's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ETN, great value. Tyreek Hill at 9.3. I mean, would we be surprised if Tyreek Hill returned to wide receiver 1 next year?
No.
Right?
No. No, but this is why when we did our rankings preseason last year, I'm like, no matter what happens, the dude's 30 years old,
Well, sure, you
31
got
years
to,
old.
yeah, I
So
agree.
adjust yourself.
Right.
But at the same time, no, at 9-3 in the ninth round, and maybe even slides down a little farther than this. Again,
Mm.
as we get to know more rookies, we're going to be like, well, I'd rather just have this guy than that. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe Trey Harris gets a sweet landing spot, and all of a sudden we're like, well, I'll definitely take a Trey Harris over a 30-year-old. That's the kind of conversations that's about to come up our way. But would it if especially if he leaves Miami and goes somewhere? I mean, I've nothing wrong with Miami as long as I think his problem is he doesn't want to stick around and watch Tua get hurt again and not have a quarterback. Uh, but yeah, Tyreek is a stud, and if he goes back to wide receiver one status, that's not going to shock anybody. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. JT Sanders a little early there for me when, I just been drafting him for a minute here. He could probably go all the way to 12, 13, 14 here. Then he comes back in Jono with the 16th. He loves Brashad Smith, which I like that pick a lot. Raheed Shaheed in the 14th. Dude was on fire to start the season. Bateman, it was great this year and has, good prowess all around, just hadn't put it together and had some injuries, and Bateman was good. And then he grabs himself Stafford. So if Bryce Young isn't where he needs him to be, or Dak isn't where he needs him to be, he's okay with Stafford there. So I don't mind that build at all. Is there any other builds that kind of really stick out to you? I know we started with Bladner there, and we really loved on him for a minute, and I like his build quite a bit. Um, he went Chase Harrison, Kyler, Bo Nix, Travion, Caleb Johnson, Shador, Loveland, Kamara. So maybe with that build, maybe I don't go Kamara there, but hey, Kamara in the 9th, 10th, you're if he could be a guy who, hey, you trade him to somebody else for some twos or something as the league's going on because you're not in contention because of the way you built your team, or you're in contention because a couple of your rookies smashed and now Kamara's carrying you into the playoffs in that
Right.
first season, right? So I can
Yeah.
I can see it, but this construction is a lot like something that I like to put together in new maiden startups. It's just a lot of youth and really good shots, and there's just a lot of fluidity of what he can do here with all the players that he grabbed. I mean, probably wouldn't have drafted Kelsey in the 16th round, but he got after Loveland in the 8th. He came back with Kamara, Royals, Dylan Sampson, 2 rookies, rookie wide receiver, rookie running back, Dallas Goedert in the 12th, Jack Betch at 13-6, who's the darling right now of everything. Then he got Braylon Allen 14-7, and Jordan James, who I really like, and then Kelsey in the 16th, which maybe I wouldn't have done that. I might have gone a different way there.
I don't
But
hate the Kelsey in the 16th round. A tight end premium. I mean, if he comes back for another year and he's averaging, decent catches, I don't hate it. I mean, I mean, for a super young team, like the Alvin Kamara in a 9-6 kind of stands out, but I he would be he would really need some love out of some of these. He doesn't have a third receiver.
mhm,
He got some rookies, so it would be a stretch to see. If Henderson and Caleb Johnson, if Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson were both just doing absolute work, then he'd still be looking for some flex starters on his bench. But then if that's the case, if those running backs are doing absolute work, he's got 2 stud wide receivers and some quarterbacks, so he'd be in fine shape from a dynasty core standpoint.
right.
And then
This
again,
isn't
you don't need your week one lineup in January. So if that's the
this
way you
is
want to
a
build your team,
Right. This is a build that you're either going to, move a bunch of assets and do some stuff, which I like the idea of being able to do that. But you're also probably most likely going into year one knowing you're donating money for a year or two, and I'm going to have a high draft pick year one. Right.
definitely,
And
definitely.
so I know that I can, I like that in a startup there. Anything else that
And
really stands out to you?
well, in addition to that, you're about to have a high draft pick if that's the way you're going to draft your team. So you don't give up your first or second round
Right.
pick this
Right.
year. Going into at all, because if that's the way you want to draft, you're probably going to be, but not necessarily bad, but you're not going to be able to fill the starting lineup. But you have some dynasty pieces and a good core. So that's just, hey, man, if that's the way you do it, don't go selling your second round pick to move up into 13th round because you see something bright and shiny.
Right. Right.
Focus on what you got going on.
Any other team that jumps out as you want to mention before we get out of here?
I think we talked about the ones we needed to talk about. I you know, I like the JSN and Roma Dunze and Xavier Worthy back to back to back for the second round pick. Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams 211
Mm-hmm.
gives you 2 young quarterbacks. Obviously, we want Caleb Williams to be. We know he's a stud player. we want him to be a stud NFL quarterback. And then JSN and Rome and Worthy, those are really fun picks. And then they got the Caleb and Rome stack on top of that, probably a little early on Tucker Craft. I really enjoy him having Tucker Craft on this team, but maybe at 6'2", that was it's very aggressive. But you could probably have gotten him a round or 3 later. But and then Chase Brown in 7-11, man. I'm gonna be
day.
drafted. I'm gonna be getting so much Chase Brown's on so many sale lists, and I'm gonna eat it up. I'm gonna eat it up.
Stupid. Yeah, no, decent squad there. I would have dropped Kraft down, but some got a good mix of some veterans and some youth. I like the shots he took late. Mims, Jennings, Sinnott, Harvey.
Definitely. I mean, 13-11, Marvin Mims right now, the way he's ended the season with Denver and his yards per route run being outrageous, and Jennings being 14-2. It's hard to see him not being a starter for the Niners next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's very, very solid value at 14-2.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this Mock Draft Monday presented by Fast Draft. Use promo code FFD if you're going to download that. A lot of fun going on over there. We'll be putting out some content with that. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you're not giving out 5-star reviews, I don't know what your problem is, but let's get a 5-star review. If you want to enter the contest to get a free T-shirt, check the description below. You can enter in that 5-star review, getting a drawing for a free T-shirt. Going to give at least one of those away a month. So make sure you go down there and enter that bad boy. Then if you want more of us, you can YouTube membership it, $5 holler. You can go over to Patreon, $5 holler, and get extra content. You can get rankings. You can get involved in the mock drafts. You can get rookie rankings, all sorts of good stuff going over there, extra content. And there's also a free version of the Discord that if you're not in, I don't know why. It's an easy way to get involved in these mocks for sure. So until next Monday, we'll see you on the other side. We appreciate you.
Mock Draft Monday.